Dark Days in America, September 1st, 2020, November 2nd, 2020. 1. This is our comeuppance, or it is not. With a reassuring smile, a friend urges history on me. Kamala says, A Lenai Lenape neighbor stares through me in silence. I will not edit this past the due date. Regardless of what happens on election day, these are dark days, and the darkness will cast long shadows into the days to come. But what do I know? I'm just an old white man with an opinion. Imagine that. Now, imagine a change deep down in our nation's soul, if there is such a place. The unholy alliance of Catholics and evangelists think so. I wonder how long it will take for the return of fundamentalists to the notion that their co-conspirators are the Antichrist. History indeed. 2. That I don't know real oppression is attested to by my stock refrigerator and my frozen stocks. I'll survive, but so what? Unimaginable. The bullshitter's sign reads, no more BS. His tongue is in his cheek, but that guy driving around with this flag really believes what the flapping stands for. The integrity of the middle finger. Sad that it's come to this. We're all extras in a less than B movie. Next poem begins with an epigraph. How even gods fear the future. Chester Wilson III. Dark matters. Now the universe is God and the supreme is still mysterious, rushing away from our notions of time and eternity. The past, the present, and the future try to walk into a bar, but we're all locked down or locked up, depending on. Monotheism didn't solve anything. We're still stupid, fornicating with bullshit, the issuance being our own beast. Astrophysicists are giddy, whether talking about the Big Bang or the Big Freeze, as if demise were beyond control. I got news for them. What's beyond is 1 billion years. Even the Buddha's promise of enlightenment abandons the here and now. I've been waiting for God to show up all my life. Even my imagination is disappointed. When the world is still, I can almost hear an eye. Flesh. What's left? Dried fruit, smooth, stretched skin, a memory in veins, spidered out. Recall the delta where life began. Shitting in the sacred river for 6,000 years. Only the poor, in spirit, bathe there? Who could have predicted this? All of us. Freud smokes his last cigar. I couldn't give this up, the curtain of smoke hiding what Alfred and Carl suspected, insecurity masquerading as what? Now, no matter, it is over. This will be my last cigar. Anna will not like it. Max will make her see the sense of it. Pain, bah. We never benefit from pain that never ceases. That salesman, that doctor in America, what do they know, calling it a touchstone? I quit the coca long ago, all on my own, no need of fellowship. I have never needed anyone. Professor extraordinarius, I should have been content with Latin superlatives. Alas, no money, no prestige. Dicebreaker. I prefer the precision of German, which the Nazis corrupted. Oh, my dear, dear sisters, what has become of you? Let their smoke camouflage my tears. Let the morphine-fueled dreams of an afterlife I could never see. In our dreams, I found the vision of the third eye. Late tonight, I begin the final dream, explore the darkened inner landscape for that elusive peace. Gunfight at the Slow K Corral. We stare at each other. I think I know him, but I don't. It takes years to come to this conclusion. We volunteer at the same prison, enter through different gates. His key is a Bible, mine a book of poetry. To me, they are the same, metaphoric truth. I've read several versions of his book. He'll never read mine. But there I go again, thinking I know him. He comes with his wife, thin lips that never smile. There are no instructions in the good book for smiles. Joy, perhaps, but not laughter. It's no joke trying to get to heaven, even for believers. We, he and I, perhaps her, grew up watching Westerns, drawing conclusions from colors, black hats and white, red skin and brown, ubiquitous pink and all those chiseled jaws. Over time, he reveals not surprising things, Navy vet, born again, little rectangles pushed out from the Pez dispenser of his mouth, one at a time. I reveal my contradictions suddenly, army vet, poet, recovering alcoholic, wiping the smugness from his face, thinking that I know him, thinking always I'm the faster draw, sarcasm blazing. Finally, he reveals, I got a deer this week on my property. We'll be selling the house soon, move to an apartment. I knew he had a gun. Weapon, my drill sergeant would correct, as we raised our rifles in one hand, clutched our balls with the other. This is my weapon, this is my gun. One is for killing, the other for fun. The hint of a smile, so self-assured in a faith he can see, that allows him to see the next life, fades from his face when he says, apartment. I thought I knew him. In the house of men. An ordinary guy has always been my disguise, unnoticed and listening to the silences of men. As a boy, I cried openly and too often, afraid of what this meant. No one believes where I've gone, nor the distance I have traveled to return. Don Gennaro slides along the limb of a tree, tugging on the light fibers of the world with his own from the dantian, 4 fingers below the navel. I accepted this as true, although my friend Mike said Castaneda was a New York accountant making a buck from fantasy, but it was a woman who told me the location. I once moonwalked away from a young mafiosa, my friend Joe tugging on my arm, laughing and a little scared. I knew we were safe. Joe was Italian. We were stupid, though. Everyone kills their own. I should have stayed in the kitchen with my sisters, my mother and all my brothers' wives. They talked and cooked at the same time, laughing and crying at the same thing, their ability to hold both at once. If men hold complexity at all, it's not long. catching a pass, score, drop the ball. End zone celebrations annoy me. But these are boys, not men, and different. Perhaps the dancing they are doing is more honest. They know their meat. Why pretend? What a relief. Interrogation of an Archangel. Allow me to anticipate your questions. No, I do not exist, nor any of the others. Names should be a clue. Thrones and principalities, so medieval, so quaint. I am creator of all, a homeless addict, the raped hooker, a thief, a murderer. Do not place any false before me. I send no messengers in my place. I am the message, the meaning, the life. Count lines, neither 7 nor 9, and not 14. No clues. Mathematics, another language, not my voice. Memorial Day, May 25th, 2020. Like other things, it's early this year, or late. Some other superlative we're forced to use, or world on steroids. Who knows what huge or great means anymore? Wordsmiths in the Caucasian house, commandeering language as if we all didn't have dictionaries, Latin for dummies. Hydrofictions, hosed again. Mystery, and mystery from the Greek verb mosteion, to close the eyes or the mouth. If I bend a knee, can you be found among the dust? If words are whispered in prayer, are you close enough to hear them? If I leave myself at the gate of thought, have I entered your house? Are you there, waiting in a silence that is deafening? Night. I penetrate the night, the boy tied to the iron bed with a nylon, listening at the top of the stairs to conversations spoken in the orange living room light. Now, I go anywhere in my house like I own the place, discover my voice in the moonlit night slicing through the windows. What am I saying, complaining about the high-pitched blur of the evening news? No one pays attention. I have said the same a million times before. People don't like a know-it-all. Better when you're vapid, one of them. Stupid ideas ending in a quick fix that never takes much effort or sacrifice. The way white folks talk so easily about racism, if they even believe it exists, or if they do, how the mantle of our guilt will be sufficient in covering up this mess. Those fires in the street, let them burn and penetrate. On Hazelwood Drive, memory, the sense of humor, I keep losing things. In the mirror is a man I hardly know. I'm reluctant to say more. Dodging definition is easy when you're nimble on defeat. Life is hard when nobody wants to hear you complain. I thought I knew what personhood meant, but that was in the 50s. Nobody even mentions the 50s anymore. We won the war for the world. What else was left to endure? The rest is a blur. No one living looks like me. I hear the voices of the dead through muffled microphones. I don't understand pornography. Is there money in it? The last time I saw Paris will be the first time. It pleases me to have an enigma on my bucket list. To say bucket list in a poem is a guarantee not to get published. If you reveal too much, is this psychological bravery or emotional suicide? Am I clever, interesting, or just afraid? I've never been able to answer this question about myself. Portrait. Thunder without rain, self-contained. Seldom humble bumble, don't really fit. Killer wit. Know-it-all, in thrall of angels. Haven't been anywhere where I'm comfortable. Still able to love. It feels I am fashioning a soul. The awareness slips through my lips like a composition describing a position that's never still. I will keep going. I'm not convinced we aren't gods. Scatological. Nobody wants to talk about defecation, urination. They'll go on and on about ruination, the defamation of a good name, as if we all didn't shit down, some standing to piss. My personal physician is not overly impressed with 7 to 8 P's in the night, as if that weren't a record or at least cause for alarm. I sit down myself, shedding the toxic masculinity of which I have been falsely accused. If we refuse to discuss our most basic tendencies, how will we ever be able to change our soiled underthings? That I have to cough it out so as not to once again slide down the razor banister of a hemorrhoidectomy does not hold much interest outside my family, who, truth be told, are tired of the sounds they are unable to ignore emanating from the bathroom. No longer just sophomoric humor, this is now a medical condition, as yet undiagnosed, which are the scariest kind. The inability to name a malaise could be what is universally wrong. Didn't we name everything in Eden? Wasn't that the first assignment? Did we fuck that up as well? I wish the world would get honest. There's nothing wrong with bodily functions except when something's wrong. How will you know how to measure up against the norm if you can't talk about it? That's the only way we survive. Sad if the word was flushed, no longer dwelt among us. And this is my last poem. In response to a prompt from my friend and mentor and teacher, Leonard Gontarek, he asked us to compose a poem that didn't really have a title, just a number. And so that started a process, and I have sort of a group of these. And this is number 525. I want to thank everybody for coming and thank Larry and the other poets for inviting me. Number 525. How to ignore a spotlight. First, be angry. Allow yourself to live in it. Make a shelter of your anger. Set up a latrine, at least a metal pail and a compost pit at some distance where you will only grow flowers. Be patient. There is a lot of it, and you will experience phases which are the siren songs where most are shipwrecked. Celebrate longevity without giving in to its sweet smell. Finally, don't believe a word it whispers to you, especially in the dead of night where no light exists, where the absence of a spotlight is so familiar and convincing. Remember, this is where you started. This is where you found your voice. Thank you.
It's been a great day, but I feel I need to read a poem it's a poem of the legacy of unacceptable deaths. It's called Cortage. Let fall the trees needed to craft them, hardwood, conifer, craft them well, and let most be laid end to end from near and far on their way to the gates of the White House, not directly, as rest assured there will be enough to detour across each executive fairway. Let some be barged down the Potomac, lazily, sun on polished wood, light fingering each name. Let few, even if they crush the blossoms, be airlifted into the rose garden, choppers low, over the vulnerable, as if in wartime. Let them replace the metro. Let them be caissoned down Pennsylvania Avenue, each tagged with a starred and striped price tag to display the true cost of dying for your economy. Let Mnuchin explain the law of supply and demand. Let them be carefully stacked, however long it takes, about that house, no matter how high, no matter that the light will no longer enter. Let them be the perfect wall, the perfect memorial. And I want to read a poem, not of my own. It's a poem by W.S. Merwin called For the Anniversary of My Death. I had an old friend who passed away in the last couple of months, and this is for him. For the anniversary of my death. Every year without knowing it, I have passed the day when the last fires will wave to me and the silence will set out, tireless traveler, like the beam of a lightless star. Then I will no longer find myself in life as in a strange garment, surprised at the earth and the love of one woman and the shamelessness of men. As today, writing after 3 days of rain, hearing the wren sing and the falling cease, and bowing, not knowing to what. Excuse me. My wife, Giselle, used to work as an itinerant hearing therapist for the Philadelphia School District. So she drove from school to school in North Philly. So this poem is based on something she experienced. It's called Coming to Rest. On the way to work, Giselle's brakes have gone bad, so she rides in the cab with the tow truck driver, who, as they're passing the high school, asks her if she knows that it was Edison that lost the most students in Vietnam. Says, after she replies yes, that he shot a pregnant woman there, that coming home was rough, that he took a bullet for a friend. 40 years later, he hauls heavy metal around North Philly. Giselle surely has counseled the children, the grandchildren of some of the dead. The bones of mother and near child rest in Southeast Asia in the delta where the Mekong meets the sea, bound to the curve of the world. Some things vanish too quickly, some linger too long, and so much in between. Breaks give out or don't. Sometimes there seems to be too much for which to cry. All bullets should be allowed to come to rest, all scales tossed into a heap. We like to think Judgment Day is in the future, but it isn't. I'm going to read a poem that was published a bunch of years ago in Apiary magazine. This is for my daughter. It's called, her name isn't Domino, but that's the name of the poem. And the reason there are some references in a few words in Spanish, a reference to Cubans, is because my wife was born in Cuba. Domino. Past the train station, I walk the slope of the sink where a creek must run beneath, where above night just shadow puddles, water, night, speaker and listener. See, Mariah, it's not even 8 a.m. and I've parsed, however mundanely, this portion of neighborhood into its parts, laid them together as if starting a game of dominoes, light spattered upon dark, day, night, end to end. As I said, while music thumps like blood, I walk. To you, I say, the heart is just the beginning. To you, I say, take care because I know you will be taking your chances. I say, take chances, and that advice is cheap. We might laugh at that. Speaker, listener, ditch that template. We cannot plan this ahead, but laughing together is the best. Cannot print our own money, but we can place old Cubans at a table beneath the eaves of this train station, can allow them cigars, tumblers of water, espresso-filled demi-tasse club cups, can let them lounge as long as a thought. Cafe, sangre, musica, home. You have one, you will make one. The boneyard awaits us all. But till then, music, carry me, carry you. I will tap my feet. I will make my play. For those of you who aren't familiar with Philadelphia, I live in the northwestern part of the city, and one of the landmarks of the northwestern part of Philadelphia is Wissahickon Creek and the park that surrounds it. Steep woods leading down to the creek. And one of the streets that goes down there is called Kitchen Lane. So this is called Kitchen Lane. Mid-creek, at one end of wide, slow curve, brown dog with lime green disc in its jaws. The way we sometimes feel we're being retrieved over and over, gently, by something with sharp edges. How we feel something bigger may be at work here. How we might see mind as creek. What creek says may be at play too. I say, whatever, smallness, bigness, for now I bring you this, drop it at your feet. Pick it up, toss it, watch me run. A few years ago, we were on a vacation in Vermont, near Montpelier, and we went into a bookstore. It's a great little town, by the way. Great bookstore, great public library. But I got a photography book called The 60s. I'm having a senior moment because I can't remember the name of the photographer. He's a well-known photographer. Black and white photos. And he went to Saigon during the war. And Richard Avedon, excuse me. He went to Saigon during the war and took a whole bunch of pictures. He set up a studio. And one of those photographs was in the book, and I was my daughter, who was in high school at that time, and her good friend were along with us. And well, in the poem, I will mention what I told them about this photograph. The poem is called The Gulf, and it's in 4 parts. 1, not that you or I have been waiting for or anticipating, or certainly wanting to see it. We've finally gotten to the photo, black and white, in which form trumps our usual color menu, trumps right down to the portrait, and it is a portrait, of the napalm mutilated Vietnamese woman. Sculpted by napalm might be deemed too crude, cold, inappropriate, but that's how much of a mutilation can be assumed. Who knows how leathery her skin already was from the elements, but we do know that the low-flying jets introduced an if not new, then intensified one. 2, in his Poetry at the Edges essay, Practice Journey, Albert Goldbarth bemoans a finger-wagging lack of sense of history, big and small. See, the thing is, we don't learn from history, barely even acknowledge it. This unnamed woman is a portal to, from, and through. After the trip to Montpelier, buying of the 60s, before the out on vacation house deck dinner, all of us having looked, I come as close as ever to lecturing. All caps and bold face, 19-year-old daughter and her BFF Anna, that this picture captures the outrage at horror, reality of that war. Now, sitting at the keys, I want to iterate. If the finishing part of the saying is, and don't believe half of what you see, then this is the half you can believe. 3, white drape, backdropped, dressed in black, shot from hips up. She is sideshow worthy, man-made division. It is said that in black and white, the eye is drawn to the lightest area. Here, despite it being an even gray, her blind one is what draws mine. The ball, as firm as gelatin can get to being firm, or maybe it's simply a fused lid. Her nose looks, though we know it took but moments, as if it's been eroded for years. The left side face skin tugged down, her mouth drawn in, as if something inside between seed teeth pulls at it. Purse stitch mouth. Her hair, wind-stirred smoke. How can I say her features look terrain-like, or as a swirling gulf of Tonkin storm radared from above? Decades gone, but still present. 4. After the unmeasured duration of a while, my eye drifts to her one good eye, clear, direct into the camera, lens to lens. And she is here in a Saigon studio, letting this happen. The clear eye. Who knows if, since the change, she smiled, can smile. I do know this, that I want to say, not as a balance. If anything, this photograph is a documentation of imbalance. I want to say, despite knowledge of illness, cruelty, the guerrilla war of ache, the things that can eat away at us, that, at least in black and white, the body strives towards survival. If we refrain from speeches, just look, stay silent, maybe we can hear it forming. I'm going to finish with a poem. Don't get scared. It's in 21 parts, very short parts. And it mentions the word mitzvah, which, for those who may not know, is the Hebrew word for good deed. And I started 21 and worked down to 1. 21. If I didn't say, I'm not sure I said the title, Raking the Leaves. 21. North of my city, headed north from Carr speakers, Roy Acuff's fevered Old Testament righteousness. I heard the wreck on the highway, but I didn't hear nobody pray. 20. A mile, my father said, from home to firehouse. A mile. 19. In that town, Halloween decorations up for weeks before. I mean, how long can a person remain scared? Along roadsides, despite their alertness, despite the most graceful of lives, dear and clumsy poses. 18. How long? A voice replies. You don't want to know. 17. Fever cure. Stick to the 2 lanes. Follow reservoir shorelines. Imagine while bagging the trash, Yo-Yo Ma humming Foggy Mountain Breakdown. Replace the names of the saints with those of blues musicians. 16. In that city, on an operating room table, a young addict, frantic, hobgoblins working within her, her about to be born, already crying out for help. 15. Saint Jerome, 4th century. Although God can do all things, he cannot raise up a virgin after she has fallen. 14. How leaves fall, then from beneath, smell of dampness like a tallying up of the year. How they return. 13. I say, Jerome, either he can or he can't. 12. Amid steep hillsides at narrow river bridge, paying for the car behind no longer allowed. In my hometown, no more the burning of leaves. 11. Is that what I'm up to? 11. Graveside. A rabbi says the last mitzvah for someone is to bury them well, a difficult deed done kindly. The Buddha says, every leaf a truth. Luther Allison sings, give me back my wig, and honey, let your head go bald. 10. I am bewildered by those who are so certain, am always struck, despite grief, by the depth of an open grave. The devil in the details, a devil just another angel gone rogue. 9. Eventually someone predicting the end of the world will be right. About the hillside trees, fallen leaves, bright as heaven's linoleum. 8. In that operating room, intubation, general anesthesia, speed of the essence. The next to the last mitzvah, to breathe for someone. 7. I say she raises herself up. I say autumn, a window of opportunity. I say light one leaf, then use that one to light the next as if chain smoking into eternity. 6. That breakdown. Lester Flat guitar, Earl Scruggs banjo, the Pickers. I say, praise them all. I say, better, each leaf a poem. 5. Coco Taylor. You can have my husband, but please don't mess with my man. 4. I say, Jerome, lay down your quill, touch a woman, touch a man, fall together. I say, Acuff, chill, wander the great gray city of autumn, imagine a cello within each trunk. I say, unsurprising sadness, sadness still the same. 3. I say, the scripture of autumn, to acknowledge the falling. I say, a sadness if we could not fill, even if we stayed all day shoveling. 2. My father, home again, jiggity jog. Champion Jack Dupree, stick out your can. Here comes the garbage man. 1. Yes, someday this world will be gone, but for now, let's rake a mile straight, let's say, through the leaves, an aisle wide enough so, if need be, we might pass ourselves, coming the other way. Thank you.
So the first poem I'm going to read is really about my muse. It is never me. It is always something that he has borrowed from the world, a world that is a result of language. He dries words out of my overfed brain. Most of the thinking has happened before my pen meets the page. Whatever words you believe you own are his, and then mine. He uses me as he pleases. He has borrowed this sentence. There is more wilderness in me than in nature. It is another borrowed thought that keeps me on my toes, a borrowed pronouncement. And it is this sentences like these that he creates an image of me. His function is to be a function of me, function as a reenactment of the world he sees that I live in, function as the interruptions and the interventions. He finds a place for me to sit down quietly. This is the only way I am humanly possible. He says the crow, the butterfly, the Juneberry will be my relatives. Says trees speak, share their ideas just beneath me. Says the moon will carry thoughts into the sky until those thoughts, or the moon's thoughts, those will be a gift to the darkness. Says, watch the little victories of the clouds in their constant splendor. Says, the bending stems of the bamboo in our garden are in prayer pose, shading our devotionals, the cardinales, the black-eyed Susan, and herbs. Sniff a flower for its innocence, he urges. See the chaos of the bees, gold and purple bodies, weaving a brocade scarf. Crickets in the sawgrass, hum of summer, listen. The little poem keeps the world at a distance, so small one could accidentally step on it. It's got next to nothing, thin as a piece of linen, a pulse with nobody. One wonders how it could survive on a page. Stands motionless, listening to itself pass and return again and again. No longer curious, it stopped adopting and responding to the changing conditions. Stopped exploring ways to describe the universe in flux or mimic the crying out of another species. How little power language now has over the truth. Says the word beautiful will remain while the world vanishes. When asked where he's been, it answers nowhere. Why? Am I boring you? So this is about our urban bestiary, and the title of the poem is The Bestiary. Only in parts, we never see them in full, like describing a man exiting from a speeding train. Not bear or cougar big, coyote, the song dog, hiding darknesses. Their dens on the leafy edge of the city's wilderness, where we play, where the spirits of our ancestors rest. And in the porous membrane of our imagination that once, like the coyote, to slip deep back into the forest with the animal in us that is still screaming. So someone asked to say, well, other than describing, the usual characteristics, how would you portray yourself? So this is titled Self-Portrait as Salad. I'm a good salad. I can mingle with romaine, radicchio, bok choy, endive, kale, but not iceberg lettuce. I stay away from the nightshades. I am dressed in more than olive oil and a spritz of lemon. I am vinaigrette, aged balsamic vinegar, cold pressed virgin olive oil, cloves of mashed garlic, a finely chopped shallot. I am a tablespoon of maple syrup, a pinch of cinnamon, ginger, thyme, turmeric, a teaspoon of Dijon, salt and pepper, vigorously whisked. This is how I fit into the world. These are the ingredients of the happiness that comes over me. I am not afraid of slices of radish paired with grapes. Don't mind an artichoke cozying up to some strawberries, black-eyed peas blended in with cubes of pineapple, or calamari olives challenging the cranberries. With bits of golden sultana raisins, almonds, walnuts, I can embellish, sprinkling a light coat of goat or feta cheese crumbles. So this poem really was created from the little block that I live on, which is Nordane Street between 21st and 22nd in South Central Philadelphia, sometimes called Fiddler Square. So this is called Training a Tree to Stand Straight. After 2 years, a hawthorn teeters, bows, ducks below the canopy toward the north side of our block, leans in like a nosy neighbor. After storms, complaints about branches scratching cars mount. The neighbor wraps a guy wire around the crown, yanks hard, pulling the tree toward him, sets it right, hammers 2 bamboo stakes on each side, fastens the wire. Shackled now to manage its appetite for the sunlight, the tree functions in order to function. There will be strong winds, rain, and snowstorms, but the tree will stand. Come spring, clusters of delicate white flowers will bloom among the crown of thorny branches. In autumn, the leaves will change color and wither, and it will never see fairies. So staying on the block, in the last few years, we've had a lot of young couples move in, and we've had the beauty of young children mixed with us old geezers. And it's just been absolutely wonderful. And so I always, love to watch these children play. And this poem is called Play. A group of toddlers gather with their parents in the street, children of the recent settlers on the block. They play tag, kickball, wand swirl bubbles floating in all directions. Play bing bag tic-tac-toe. Little people whispering secrets in each other's ear. One parent draws rainbows, another chalks different shapes with different colors. Kids chase shadows, trace the shadows of the trees and grown-ups. A few stop and stare into some unseen presence. Parents play red light, green light with them. One parent makes water balloons for them to hurl. High octaves of yelps, screams, laughter. At times, one will stop everything, run to nestle in the safety of a hug. The twins race their scooters from one end of the block to the other. Others are given a ride in a red wagon. A few have just learned to walk, fall down, and get up, keep trying. When I see this, I feel joy. Altogether, to me, they are single child. There is no difference, no cutest, no gifted, just play. So I think Fran and I are in the same workshop, so I'm lucky that I get to listen to Fran's poem just about every Saturday. So this is about, a skill I developed as a young boy. I had a dozen dress shirts, half for cold weather, 3 for spring, 3 short sleeve for summer, all purchased from JCPenney's seasonal closeout sales. Button down, tougher Oxford cotton for winter, 4 white, 2 sky blue, all linen for warmer weather. This was before easy to maintain, non-iron, wrinkle-free ready wear. It was 1954, the year Willie Mays made that circus catch in the World Series. It cost 70 cents to see Blackboard Jungle, and I became a bulletin boy. I was 12. My mother told me from now on I had to iron my own shirts, altar board cassocks, press my pants. I already knew how to shine my shoes. The same year she taught me how to cook a perfect fried egg, peel onions, dice celery, stuff a turkey, and make a Waldorf salad. She told me she was too busy now caring for my bedridden grandmother on the second floor. She showed me how to follow her strict order in ironing a shirt. Above all, she said, pay special attention to the seams and borders, fastening everything. Start with all the hidden places, the yoke first, next the pleat in the middle of the back panel, then the barrel cuffs. Glide up the sleeves to the armhole. Again, seams and borders on to the front and double layer of fabric that coax buttons into holes. The background eventually for a tie. Finally, the front panels in the pocket. This marked a stage of independence for me. I was transforming a rumpled heat pressing something into proper shape. I was plowing crossroads of fabric across the borders and seams. I was finishing caring for myself, becoming a big boy. I came to love the smell of baked cotton coming from the steam, learned to be more delicate, releasing the presser, fascinated with my own mastery, the gliding motion of the iron. Drudgery to many, I learned that routine could be precious. What the nuns would call daydreaming. I would linger over the smallest details like the edge of a barrel of a cuff or the seam between the yoke and armhole. This is a poem in an homage to Emily Dickinson. It's the same as the title of her poem, Almost. As he showed the x-ray, the doctor said it was a hairbreadth from puncturing my lung. If the wave would have pulled me down to the point where the beach met the ocean, I was told my neck would have been broken. I was just about 2 blocks away. If my father had only waited 5 minutes more, he wouldn't have tried to lift those pieces of furniture, and I wouldn't have found him collapsed under the coffee table. I ask how much of life is the consequence of being not quite, close to, very nearly, virtually within sight of, on the verge of, at the brink, bordering on to all intents, in the vicinity of, if not. So this next poem is the second part of a poem that I wrote in really for reaction to the coronavirus. And the first part of this was really talking about my usual annual stress test for my heart. But this is the second part. It's called April 2020. Wearing vibrant red vesture, the cardinales have sprouted. Astas look thick with ambition, ferns unraveling, waiting for black-eyed Susan's lavender bee balm to show soon. Cherry blossom trees blaze with beauty, but there will be no cherry blossom festivals this year. Death and talk of death is everywhere. The virus seems to do whatever it wants. I am troubled as I look at the colorful microscopic images of the parasite, which teeters on the boundaries of what is considered life, 10,000 times smaller than a grain of salt, bearing a strange resemblance to the flower love and mist, nestled in a ring of lacy netting, claw-like nettles, whirling in the air, hitching a ride on a speck of dust. In flight, their grappling hooks searching for a scent of weakness, a cleavage site, a host, the molecular can opener that allows the virus to crack the safe of the body, find a frail cell to colonize. Now my little friend lives with a melancholy that he's a byproduct of natural selection, and despite all his training, knows he is among the most vulnerable. This poem was actually written on a vacation that I had in Indian Lake in the Adirondacks. And I actually wrote this poem in the guest book of the people who allowed us to stay at their place, the guest book. Far in the woods, away from the connectivity without the weight of time, it was not difficult to relax here, pause in the middle of sentences, words erased by the sounds. Lost hours on the frontier of happiness. The mind hikes along. Here you can rent your own sun for the day, not a sun that can open wide to heaven's light, a breathing fire, deafening sight, just enough and not too much to illuminate as you paddle along the coast of Blue Mountain Lake, imagining what the Iroquois learned from the Burghers. I established my own spacing of everything, long stockings of clouds dressing the big sky, as the invisible hand of the painter continued the finishing touches on the mountains, rolling over everything. Tried to translate the language of the lake, listening carefully to intervals between its parts of speech, admiring its patience with the accents of things that interrupt flow, tree trunks, trees endlessly collapsing in its lap. Watched loons scribbling messages in cursive, the high fidelity calls of a crow, imagining it's bullying a tree sparrow, perhaps just giving warning. At night, the moon's marbled face spangled on the lake, questioning what fate the stars were signaling each night. Attentive to wind snapping their fingers through the canopy of trees, rustling the trafficking of spirits, stepping across the membrane of darkness, putting your breath into something that is not there. So Larry mentioned in my introduction that I had done work in Haiti. I mean, I was a lay missionary, and I went to Haiti for about 5 years, Port-au-Prince, and I actually stayed at an orphanage and an infirmary run by the Sisters of Charity. And then after the earthquake, I did not return, but what I did is I went out and I began appeals for money, primarily in Western Pennsylvania. This is called comfort food. A giant supermarket sits squarely in the heart of Peytonville, a cathedral of consumption, 2 blocks from two tent cities where women walk with spray bottles filled with bleach and zombifying powder fend off the gangs, bang. You walk inside, leaving Haiti. Then the noise begins. Noise of their eyes in your heart, of your shopping cart, barreling through the aisles as fast as you can, grabbing things before the noise of those who could never afford anything here, living on $2 a day, catches up to you before you check out. The noise of choices compared to those who have few, as you look at different varieties of ginger ale, brands of chips, 40 brands of cereal, peaches from South Carolina, beefsteak tomatoes from Jersey, mushrooms from Maryland. The noise brie makes when it lands in your cart, thinking to yourself, this would be a delicious smeared on a baguette with some brown sugar and walnuts. The strolling street markets that you avoid today to come here, that big truck to save Haiti that keeps rumbling by. Taking the elevator to the second floor, watching someone drinking an espresso in front of an area devoted to wines and liquors. Strings of guitar accompanying voices of children from the orphanage singing the Beatitudes hymn at morning mass. Blessed are they who have shown mercy. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for the righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are they who have come to collect the blessing of that little sliver of excessiveness, no cope with a really bad day at the infirmary, listening to the scratching noise of guilt as you grab a tub of Starbucks hot chocolate ice cream, thinking about the comforts of home, picturing curling up next to the oscillating fan, closing your eyes. So actually, there's another poem. I do take poems from photographs I see in newspapers, primarily the New York Times, as well as magazines, fashion magazines, etc. So this poem is called The Shapeshifters. It starts with a dream wearing a red sombrero with a feather placed in a Gucci brand, diamond-studded stars for earrings, daring pairings, mismatch combos, unleashing the power to maximize every second of the infinite bliss. Somewhere there's not a care. In their mountain retreats, listen for the coded messages of compassion, unlocking the first layer for the regular people. But the clock rings no bells of a crisis, so let's dip the pita chips ever deeper to keep us satisfied. The pedophile canard is on the loose. There is danger lurking now in children's books. written by authors that are not like mommy and daddy. We never suspect the cross-cutting energies of sexual identity in the runaway bunny and the hero in the night kitchen. Our children may never make it back home the same. And in our fragmented society, cult-inspired dressing promises a pathway to belonging. We need to accentuate man's more vulnerable sides. There has been a new form of truth created. Whatever it is, there is something different about reality now. Another extravaganza teetering on the edge of the surreal. Imagine garbage manipulated into objects that are supposedly beautiful in their own right, or a photo of scattered tree limbs woven into a basket of disaster after another hurricane. The unnatural art of loss. The utter exuberance of alternative facts made up for the complications of everyday life. Maybe it's the storybook setting for fascism, exuberant, casually opulent, ever so slightly stunning. This is what we have become. We will just be here while we're here. So let's tinker with nature a little more. Watch the human fingerprint on earth melt the melting away. So the last poem I'm going to read is not my poem, but it's actually a poem that was read in 1997 at the inauguration of Bill Clinton. And I don't know if everyone heard the poem that Amanda Gorman read today. I mean, it was just unbelievable, touching. But this poem is called Of History and Hopes by Miller Williams. We have memorized America, how it was born, and who we have been and where. In ceremonies and silence, we say the words, telling the stories, singing the old songs. We like the places they take us. Mostly we do. The great and all the anonymous dead are there. We know the sound of all the sounds we brought. The rich taste of it is on our tongues. But where are we going to be, and why, and who? The disenfranchised dead want to know. We mean to be the people we meant to be, to keep on going where we meant to go. But how do we fashion the future? Who can say how except in the minds of those who will call it now? The children, and how does our garden grow with waving hands so rarely in a row and flowering faces and brambles that we can no longer allow? Who are many people coming together cannot come one people falling apart? Who dream for every child an even chance cannot let luck alone turn doorknobs or not? Whose law was never so much of the hand as the head cannot let chaos make its way to the heart? Who have seen learning struggle from teacher to child cannot let ignorance spread itself like rot? We know we have done and what we have said and how we have grown degree by slow degree, believing ourselves toward all we have tried to become, just and compassionate, equal, able, and free. All this in the hands of children, eyes already set on a land we never can visit. It isn't there yet. But looking through their eyes, we can see what our long gift to them may come to be. If we can truly remember, they will not forget. Thank you very much.